The wind howled across the ancient plains like a wounded beast, tearing through the tall grass that stretched endlessly toward the dark horizon. The earth was still wild in those days, untamed, unpredictable, and unforgiving. The prehistoric world was young, breathing with fire and thunder, still shaping itself into what we now call home. In that vast wilderness, far before written words or carved symbols, a tribe of early humans fought for life beneath a storm that would change everything. The sky had turned to iron that day. Heavy clouds gathered above the towering cliffs, trembling with rage as lightning flickered across them like the veins of an angry god. The tribe had sensed the coming fury long before it struck. The air was thick, heavy, almost alive. The scent of rain mixed with the musk of mammoths and the distant roar of saber-toothed cats that prowled the ravines. Among the tribe, there was a young woman named Asha. Her name meant light of the fire, a name given to her by the elders because she was born on the night her people discovered how to keep the flame alive through rain. Now, years later, she carried within her the spark of new life. Her time was near, and the storm above mirrored the storm inside her. The tribe had taken shelter inside a great stone cave, carved by time and water into the side of a mountain. The walls were covered in painted memories, hunts, beasts, the sun and moon, the spirits that guided them. As the thunder cracked and lightning illuminated those drawings, the shadows seemed to dance with life. Outside, the wind screamed like the cries of ancestors. The hunters, led by Tarek, Asha's mate, fought to drag heavy hides across the cave's entrance, to keep out the freezing rain. Water seeped through every crack, running like silver rivers across the cold floor. Children huddled near the fire, their wide eyes reflecting the flames. Then came a sound that froze them all, the distant roar of something vast. It wasn't thunder, it was alive. Somewhere beyond the storm, in the valley below, a herd of mammoths was moving toward higher ground. The beasts could sense what humans could not. A flood was coming. But Asha's cry tore through the air, louder than the storm, more urgent than the thunder. It was the cry of life itself, raw, ancient, unstoppable. The women of the tribe rushed to her side. Old Nara, the healer, knelt beside Asha, her hands trembling but her eyes calm. "The child comes," she said, voice low but firm. "The storm gives life as it takes. Be strong, my child. The spirits watch." Tarek turned toward her, torn between duty and fear. He wanted to stay. Every instinct screamed for him to protect her, but outside, the storm threatened to destroy their only shelter. "Stay with her," he said to Nara. "I will hold the walls." He disappeared into the howling darkness, clutching a spear in one hand, pressing his body against the quivering hides that covered the cave mouth. Rain lashed his face, cold as ice. Through the flashes of lightning, he could see the valley below turning into a roaring river. Trees snapped like twigs. The world was drowning. Inside the cave, the air was thick with smoke and fear. The fire struggled against the wet air, sputtering, gasping for breath. The women whispered ancient prayers, calling upon the moon goddess who guarded mothers and newborns. Asha screamed again, gripping Nara's arms so tightly that blood came to the old woman's skin. "You are the mountain," Nara whispered into her ear. "You will not break." The pain came in waves, rolling through Asha's body like thunder through the valley. She felt as though the earth itself was opening beneath her, tearing her apart and remaking her at once. The world outside was chaos, but within her was creation. Every breath, every heartbeat, was a struggle between life and death. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes. Time had no meaning in that cave. Then came silence, a sudden, impossible silence. The wind fell still, even the rain seemed to pause. And in that silence, a cry pierced the air, a new cry, small but strong. The cry of a newborn child. The fire flared up, as if the earth itself rejoiced. The tribe turned, faces lit with awe. Asha held the child in her arms, trembling with exhaustion but smiling through her tears. The baby's skin glistened like polished stone, its tiny fists clenched in defiance of the world it had entered. Nara looked to the ceiling, where lightning flickered faintly through cracks in the rock. "He is born under the storm," she said softly. "He will walk with thunder." Tarek stumbled back into the cave, drenched, shaking, his face streaked with mud. He froze when he saw them, Asha and the child wrapped in furs, both alive. His knees gave way, and he fell beside her, pressing his forehead to hers. No words were needed. Outside, the storm still raged, but it seemed distant now, like an echo of the battle just fought. Life had emerged from its heart. But the world was not done testing them. The next morning, when dawn finally broke, the tribe emerged to a landscape reborn and destroyed. The valley was gone, replaced by a great lake. Trees lay torn and broken, and the air smelled of wet earth and death. The mammoth herd had vanished into the hills, leaving behind only deep tracks in the mud. The tribe gathered their belongings in silence. They would have to move. Their shelter would not last. Food was scarce, and the storm had washed away the traps and storage pits. Survival was a fragile thread, and it would take everything they had to hold it together. Asha, weak but resolute, wrapped her child in furs made from the hide of a great bear. She looked at the horizon, where smoke rose from distant fires, perhaps other tribes, perhaps danger. The child stirred, opening his eyes for the first time. They were not like hers or Tarek's. They were clear, bright gray, like the storm itself. The elders took it as a sign. This one is touched by the sky, they said. He will lead the people to the mountains. And so they began their journey, walking across the soaked plains toward the rising sun. Days turned into nights, nights into endless miles. They hunted what they could: hares, fish from the swollen rivers, once even the carcass of a fallen mammoth. Each step was a test, but the presence of the child gave them strength. As they moved, Asha watched him grow stronger, faster. The child, whom they named Raen, smiled at thunder, laughed when the rain fell, and stared at lightning as if recognizing an old friend. Years passed. The world around them shifted. Forests grew where there had been plains, ice melted into rivers that carved new paths through the land. The tribe grew too, learning to make better tools, to store food, to speak in ways that carried meaning beyond simple sounds. They were changing, becoming something more. Raen grew tall and quiet, his eyes always turned toward the horizon. The others said he could smell storms before they came, could track animals others could not see. He was different, and the tribe knew it. Some feared him, some worshipped him, but Asha loved him as only a mother could. One night, years later, another storm gathered. This one was even greater than the one that had brought Raen into the world. The sky burned with fire, and the ground trembled as if alive. Animals fled in panic, birds screamed across the sky, and the air was thick with the scent of ozone and fear. Raen stood at the mouth of a new cave, watching the storm. He was no longer a child, but a man, broad-shouldered, fierce-eyed, carrying a spear of stone and wood. Asha, now older and weary, sat near the fire, remembering that first storm long ago. "This is the storm that will end the old world," Nara said, her voice cracking with age. "And from it, something new will rise." Tarek placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "You were born for this," he said. "You are the fire that does not die." The wind struck then, tearing at the earth, ripping trees from their roots. The people huddled together, clutching one another as lightning struck the hill above them. A bolt of white fire split the sky, smashing into a tall tree that stood like a sentinel above their camp. The tree burst into flame, blazing against the rain. Raen looked up, eyes wide. He did not run. He walked toward the fire. The tribe shouted after him, but he did not stop. He reached the burning tree and stood before it, his face glowing in the red light. He lifted his hands toward the sky, and for a moment, the lightning seemed to pause, hanging above him like a living thing. Then, slowly, he reached into the flame, and drew out a burning branch. He carried it back to the cave, shielding it with his body from the rain. When he stepped inside, the others gasped. The fire did not die. It burned, fierce and steady, against the storm. Raen placed the branch into the heart of the hearth. The flames roared to life, brighter than ever before. The people cried out, awed and terrified. "The fire of the sky," Nara whispered. "He has taken the gift of the gods." From that night onward, the tribe never lost their flame again. They learned to feed it, to protect it, to share it. It became the heart of their people, the source of warmth, safety, and light. And so, from a storm and a birth, humanity found its greatest gift. When Asha closed her eyes for the last time, years later, she smiled, for she had seen the world change with her own hands. The child born in the storm had brought not only fire but hope. The world was still wild, still dangerous, but now, within that chaos, there was light. And far above, the storm clouds drifted apart, revealing a calm sky filled with stars. For the first time, the tribe looked upward not with fear, but with wonder. They began to paint new shapes on the cave walls, men standing before fire, women holding children beneath the rain, lightning striking the earth, and a boy with gray eyes reaching toward the sky. The story of Raen, the child of the storm, became the first legend. It was whispered through generations, passed from fire to fire, until it became something more than memory. It became the soul of humankind, the belief that from chaos, life is born, from darkness, light emerges, and from the storm, hope rises. The prehistoric world would continue to shift and tremble, glaciers would move, beasts would die, oceans would rise, but the fire that began that night would never die. It would travel through time, through every human heart, through every era, every civilization. And even now, when thunder rolls across our skies, it is said that Raen walks among the clouds, watching over those who still keep the flame. Because life, no matter how fierce the storm, always finds a way to be born again.